This May, my husband and I celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary by taking a trip to West Yellowstone. 5 minutes into the park, we saw this group of buffalo getting ready to cross the river. We stopped along the road with the other cars to watch them cross. While we did, the largest male stopped in a meadow next to our car, and it seemed like he was looking at us and waiting for us to take his photo, and then he ambled on. Our next stop was the paint pots at Madison. We followed the pathways to see the bubbling mud, the boiling water coming out from underground caverns. Here, the skeletonized trees made a stark contrast to the blue sky. I love this contrast. It reminded me of a George O'Keeffe painting. The other tourists were wandering around. We were clicking our cameras, taking pictures, and I found my gaze drifting down, as it often does when I'm hiking. I was curious about the plant life that could survive these toxic conditions, and sure enough, I found a couple of members of the lily family that were managing to live and bloom in this wasteland. We stayed at the Old Faithful Lodge, the original historic lodge that was built in the early 1900s, with all of the materials coming from the park itself. When you first walk into the lobby, the first thing you notice is this massive four-sided stone fireplace, and immediately your eyes go to the upward, looking for the top. After a lovely meal in the old dining hall, we took a walk along the trails around the lodge area to view the sunset. There's so many trails and thermal features that you could probably spend days wandering around and never see it all. Each night a fire was started in two sides of the fireplace. We had an excellent view of the lobby area and of people coming and going, waiting for one of the chairs next to the fire to come free. We sat at our third floor balcony, listening to the quiet piano music and looking at all this architecture of the building. Midway Geyser Basin is a series of pathways that leads past a few small hot springs to Yellowstone's largest hot springs, the Grand Prismatic Spring. It is 370 feet across and several miles deep. Unfortunately, due to all the steam and smoke, it was difficult to get a good picture from the ground, but we could see edges of the turquoise blue water and the reds and yellows along the edges of the pool from the algae and bacteria that are able to tolerate temperatures up to 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you've made the loop, you come to what appears to be a large sinkhole with bubbling turquoise water. This is the Excelsior Geyser. According to the guidebook, this hot spring pours 4,000 gallons of boiling water per minute into the Firehole River. Again, the naturalist in me had a million questions going through my mind. The biggest one being, what, if anything, could survive in a river that is getting 4,000 gallons of boiling water dumped into it in a minute? Once again, while everyone else is taking pictures of the sights all around them, I'm kneeling in the mud, looking under the rocks to see what lives in the river. I know that if it's a healthy river, there should be some early stoneflies and other little aquatic insects. And here I found a few stoneflies and a small water beetle. This was a one-way road that curved through 2 miles of canyon with cliffs that towered hundreds of feet above us while we cruised through, surrounded by tall, tall pines. After following the other cars through the canyon, we stopped to view Firehole Falls, a spectacular 40-foot drop of water through a rugged canyon. Our final trip of the weekend was to the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, a spectacular 20-mile-long canyon that ranges from 1,500 to 4,000 feet across. We drove along the south rim to the famous observation point known as Artist Point, where Thomas Moran painted his famous watercolors. As we walked the trail, we caught glimpses of steep, rugged canyon walls that were pale yellow, pink, and orange. And even from our distant point, we could hear the roar of the lower falls. to stand and see this canyon is to truly feel the amazing wonder of God. The waterfall is a thing of pure beauty and power, and all you can do is stare quietly in wonder as the Yellowstone River drops over 300 feet, twice the height of Niagara Falls. A few final thoughts. Whatever your plans or expectations may be when you visit, be prepared to have them changed and be prepared to be amazed. No matter how mature you think you are, there is something about seeing a massive buffalo crossing the road in front of your car that makes you feel like an 8-year-old kid seeing their first wild animal up close. The beauty of Yellowstone is that no matter how many times you visit the park, each trip will show you something new and teach you more about yourself.